He's been named one of the 100 most influential lawyers by the National Law Journal, and he's considered one of the foremost legal scholars in the area of securities law. Joining me from Columbia University Law School is securities law professor John Coffey. Professor Coffey, welcome to Bottom Line. Thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Professor, the significance of this, a lot of people are calling this historic. Is that an overstatement?
No, I think it's a critical case for this generation. Legally, there have been insider trading cases before, and the definition of insider trading is not substantially changed or pushed by this case. There are issues about the wiretaps. What I think is critical is this is the first major case in a generation. And quite frankly, professionals learn what is legal and illegal based not on the law on the books, but on who goes to prison and for what. And I think a generation of traders, expert witness networks, securities analysts, and others now recognize that participating in an insider trading network is dangerous, because if one of the participants gets caught, our plea bargaining system makes it likely that he'll turn in all his co-conspirators and all the financial dominoes will fall, and everyone, even though they don't know that person who's in that network, will get caught.
Professor Coffey, if I might ask, though, because you just mentioned that we have a generation of new people on Wall Street and high finance, and now they know where the line is between legal and illegal behavior. But is that something that has to be learned through an experience like this, or is this something that they inherently know? Do they know, perhaps maybe I should not be passing along this information?
I think they might know that it's illegal. They didn't know how vulnerable they were. People, again, learn deterrence based on actual vivid examples of people going to prison. And I think that's what it takes every generation to overcome the tremendous temptations to make tens of millions of dollars on a few trades and have seemingly no more than a small chance of getting caught.
Right.
But once you're in a network, that whole network is vulnerable if any participant gets caught.
Professor Coffey, in his closing argument rebuttal, the Assistant U.S. Attorney Jonathan Streeter said the following here: the defense is asking you to ignore logic, forget reality, and suspend your common sense. The jury obviously did not buy that. Talk to me about the defense's strategy here and why it came up short. The wiretaps, as Mark Rifkin just told me about, they had to be key in this case.
They are key, but what really convinced the jury was the combination of the tapes plus the live witnesses explaining what they were saying on those tapes. You not only heard the conversation, you heard one of the participants come in and say, this is what we were doing. We were exchanging money for this information, and we all knew it. That combination was only possible because most of the defendants realized that it was foolhardy to go to trial, and so cooperated and testified.
Professor Coffey, I have about 30 seconds left. How does this then make the distinction between, as I asked Mr. Rifkin, between what is research and what can be considered insider trading?
Well, that was the defense's argument. They tried to confuse the jury, as defense counsel typically does, and they tried to say the market knew something about the possibility of a merger. But there's a huge difference, as every finance professional knows, between a 10% chance of there being a merger and a 90% certainty that's communicated to you by one of the directors of the company. That's the difference. If you know something's a possibility or you know that it's an absolute certain probability, that's what makes it material, and the standard is whether a reasonable investor would care about that new information. And I think the jury went through that carefully.
Professor John Coffey joining us from the Columbia Law School. Professor, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.